You've been asking God to change your heart. He said yes. You didn't stumble upon this message by accident. You didn't press play randomly. And you are not here because the algorithm chose you. You are here because God heard something you whispered in silence. Not a loud prayer, not a perfect prayer, but a broken one. You said it late at night, when no one was watching, when your smile was gone, when your heart felt tired of being the way it is. You said, God, I don't want this heart anymore. You said, I'm tired of reacting like this. You said, change me, because I can't change myself. And heaven went quiet, not because God ignored you, but because he was working. Listen carefully now, because this is not just encouragement. This is confirmation. If you have been asking God to change your heart, your desires, your reactions, your attachments, your emotions, God already said yes. But the way he answers is not the way we expect. We think God changes hearts instantly, like flipping a switch, like deleting pain, like removing temptation overnight. But God changes hearts by walking you through fire, not around it. He allows discomfort. He allows separation. He allows pressure, not to break you, but to reshape you. The heart you ask God to change is the very heart he is now touching. And what he is doing in you right now is more serious than you realize. So don't rush this message. Don't treat this like background noise. And don't harden yourself when it starts to convict. Because when God agrees to change your heart, your life will never stay the same. Why God doesn't change your heart the way you expect. When you asked God to change your heart, you thought he would remove the pain. Instead, he exposed it. You thought he would take away the attachment. Instead, he revealed why you cling to it. You thought he would calm your emotions. Instead, he showed you what triggers them. This is where many people get confused. They say, God, I asked you to change my heart. So why does it hurt more? They say, why do I feel more uncomfortable than before? They say, why does everything feel unstable now? Because God doesn't change hearts through comfort. He changes hearts through truth. And truth always hurts before it heals. God does not bypass your wounds. He brings them into the light. He does not silence your emotions. He teaches you where they come from. He does not instantly remove desire. He weakens it by starving what feeds it. When God said yes to your prayer, he began a process, not a moment. That's why some relationships started feeling heavy. That's why certain conversations drain you now. That's why habits you once enjoyed feel empty. Your heart is no longer compatible with what once controlled it. And here's the part most people don't understand. God will let your heart break before he lets it stay corrupted. He will allow disappointment. If it leads to discernment, he will allow distance. If it leads to dependence on him, he will allow silence. If it teaches you how to listen, you didn't ask God to make you comfortable. You asked him to make you new. And new hearts require separation from old patterns. If you feel exposed right now, if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel like you're outgrowing places, people, and thoughts, that is not spiritual attack. That is spiritual surgery. God is removing what no longer belongs in you. The signs your heart is actually changing. Let me tell you something powerful. If your heart wasn't changing, you wouldn't feel this tension. One of the first signs God is answering your prayer is internal conflict. You start noticing your reactions. You catch yourself before speaking. You feel conviction where you once felt nothing. Things that used to excite you now leave you empty. Things you used to tolerate now disturb your spirit. That's not weakness. That's awakening. Another sign your heart is changing is that God removes your appetite for what once fed your flesh. You still remember it. You still feel the pull sometimes, but it doesn't satisfy you anymore. The pleasure fades faster. The guilt lasts longer, and the peace disappears quickly. That's because God is rewiring your desires, not by force, but by truth. Another sign is loneliness. Not because God abandoned you, but because he is separating you. You can no longer bond deeply with people who don't understand where God is taking you. Small talk feels exhausting. Surface connections feel empty, and you crave depth, even if it costs you comfort. This is the cost of transformation. And here's the most painful sign of all. You start seeing yourself clearly. Your patterns, your excuses, your pride, your fears. God removes the blindfold gently, but firmly, not to shame you, but to heal you, because a changed heart begins with honest vision. If you're seeing yourself differently, if you are questioning old versions of you, if you feel God calling you higher while your flesh resists, then hear this clearly. Your prayer was answered. God said yes, and He is not finished yet. Why God breaks the old heart before giving a new one. Before God gives you a new heart, He must break your agreement with the old one. And this is the stage most people misunderstand. They say, God, why does everything feel like it's falling apart? They say, why am I losing interest in things I once loved? They say, why do I feel exposed, stripped, and empty? Because the heart you asked God to change was built on survival, not surrender. It learned how to cope, but not how to trust. It learned how to attach, but not how to obey. So God begins by disconnecting you from false security. He lets you see how fragile your strength really was. He lets you experience the emptiness of things you depended on. He allows you to sit with silence, without distractions, not to punish you, but to reset you. A heart cannot be renewed while it still believes it knows what's best. That's why God allows disappointment, because disappointment breaks illusion. That's why He allows delay, because delay exposes dependence. That's why He allows loss, because loss shows you where your identity was anchored. This breaking doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, intentionally, precisely. God removes one attachment at a time, one distraction at a time, one false hope at a time, until you realize something painful but freeing. You are asking God to change your heart, while still protecting the parts of it that didn't belong to Him. So He breaks the old heart gently, not by force, but by truth. And truth will always feel like loss before it feels like freedom. The resistance you feel is proof God is working. Let me tell you something few people will ever say out loud. Resistance is not rebellion. Resistance is transition. When God begins changing your heart, your flesh will fight it. Your habits will protest. Your emotions will panic. Your mind will try to return to what feels familiar. Not because it's right, but because it's known. That's why you feel torn. One part of you wants to obey God fully. Another part wants comfort immediately. One part of you craves peace. Another part fears losing control. This internal battle is not failure. It is evidence that your old heart is losing authority. That's why temptation feels louder now. That's why memories resurface unexpectedly. That's why your past tries to call you back. The enemy doesn't fight what already belongs to him. He fights what he's losing. And God allows this resistance so you can choose surrender consciously, not out of fear, not out of pressure, but out of conviction. This is where your heart learns obedience, even when feelings disagree. This is where trust becomes real, not emotional. God is teaching your heart to follow Him even when it doesn't feel safe, because faith that depends on feeling will collapse under pressure. So if you feel tension, if obedience feels costly, if walking away hurts, don't run back. You are standing at the doorway between who you were and who God is forming you to be. What happens when you finally stop resisting? There comes a moment, quiet but powerful, when you stop fighting God. Not because everything makes sense, not because the pain disappears, but because you trust Him more than your emotions. And that's when the shift happens. Peace begins to replace panic. Clarity replaces confusion. Discernment replaces impulse. Your reactions slow down. Your boundaries strengthen. Your desires realign. You stop chasing what drains you. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand your obedience. You stop forcing connections God never ordained. Your heart becomes still, not numb, but anchored. And this is where God finishes the work He started. He gives you sensitivity without weakness, strength without pride, love without attachment. You still feel, but you're no longer ruled by feelings. You still care, but you're no longer controlled by people. You still desire, but your desires are now submitted. This is the heart you prayed for, not perfect, but surrendered. Not hardened, but guarded. Not fearful, but obedient. And if you've made it this far in the message, it's because God is already doing it in you. Your prayer was not ignored. It was answered carefully. And God never starts a heart-changing work He doesn't intend to complete. Why God starts removing people when He changes your heart. One of the most painful signs that God is changing your heart is people leaving your life. Not always through conflict, not always through betrayal, sometimes through silence. Conversations fade, connections weaken, familiar voices grow distant, and you ask God, why does this hurt so much? You ask, why am I feeling alone now? Because the heart God is forming in you cannot survive in the same environment that shaped the old one. Some people were assigned to your survival season, not your transformation season. They helped you cope, but they can't help you grow. They understand your wounds, but they don't respect your calling. And God in His mercy will remove what cannot follow you, where He's taking you. Not everyone who was close to you is meant to walk with the healed version of you. Some people only recognize the broken you. Some only connect with your pain. Some only feel comfortable when you stay small. And when your heart begins to change, their access ends. This separation feels cruel, but it is protective. God is guarding what He is building in you. He knows a changing heart is fragile, so He removes voices that confuse it. He removes influences that pull it backward. He removes relationships that compete with His authority. You may not understand it now, but one day you will thank God for who He didn't let stay. How obedience reshapes your destiny. When God changes your heart, He is not just healing your emotions, He is redirecting your destiny. Your future depends on your obedience, more than your intentions. You can have good desires and still miss God's plan if your heart resists His voice. That's why God teaches obedience before He reveals direction. He trains your heart to respond without needing explanation, to move without full clarity, to trust without visible outcome. This is where many people stop listening, because obedience costs reputation. It costs comfort. It costs approval. Sometimes God tells you to walk away with no replacement in sight. Sometimes He asks you to stay quiet when you want to defend yourself. Sometimes He asks you to wait when you feel ready. And every time you obey, your destiny shifts. Doors close you didn't even knock on. Paths align without effort. Protection activates where danger once waited. Obedience doesn't always feel powerful, but it always positions you correctly. And when your heart learns obedience, God can trust you with more clarity, more responsibility, more influence. A changed heart is a trusted heart. The peace that comes after full surrender. There is a peace God gives that does not depend on answers. It comes after surrender, not when everything is fixed, not when life becomes easy, but when your heart stops fighting reality and starts trusting God's sovereignty. This peace feels different. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It doesn't beg for control. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop fearing abandonment. You stop needing constant validation. Your heart rests even when life is uncertain. And this is how you know God has truly changed you. What once disturbed you now barely moves you. What once tempted you now looks small. What once controlled you now has no authority. You don't react the same. You don't attach the same. You don't love the same. Your love becomes pure. Your boundaries become firm. Your spirit becomes steady. This is the yes you prayed for, not loud, not dramatic, but eternal. And if you are experiencing this peace, even in small moments, then know this: God is finishing what He started. Your heart is no longer the same, and it will never return to what it was. Why God makes you wait after changing your heart. After God changes your heart, He often does something that feels confusing. He makes you wait. You expect movement, but He gives stillness. You expect answers, but he gives silence. You expect immediate reward, but he gives restraint. And you ask, God, why am I ready? But nothing is happening, because a changed heart must learn patience before it can carry purpose. Waiting is not punishment. Waiting is alignment. God is allowing your new heart to settle into obedience without urgency, because urgency leads to shortcuts, and shortcuts reopen old wounds. This waiting teaches you to trust God without timelines, to rest without results, to remain faithful without applause. God is watching how your heart behaves when no one is watching, when prayers aren't answered quickly, when doors stay closed longer than expected, when progress feels invisible. This is where God strengthens your roots, so when he finally moves you forward, you won't collapse under pressure. A heart that can wait is a heart that can be trusted. How God protects you through a changed heart. One of the greatest miracles of a changed heart is discernment. God doesn't always remove danger. Sometimes he removes your attraction to it. You begin sensing things before they happen. You feel unease where you once felt excitement. You notice red flags you used to ignore. This is not paranoia. This is spiritual awareness. God trains your heart to recognize what your mind once missed. You stop oversharing. You stop explaining your obedience. You stop chasing people who aren't sent by God. Your heart becomes guarded, not closed. Protected, not hardened. This discernment saves you from relationships that would drain you, decisions that would delay you, paths that would destroy your peace. God doesn't shout warnings anymore. He whispers them through your spirit. And because your heart is now sensitive, you listen. This is how God protects the transformed heart, by making it wise. Why you can never go back after God changes you. There is a truth few people are prepared to hear. Once God changes your heart, you can never fully return to who you were. You might revisit familiar places. You might see familiar faces. You might feel old emotions briefly, but you will never fit the same way again. Your spirit won't allow it. What once entertained you now exhausts you. What once satisfied you now leaves you empty. What once felt normal now feels wrong. And this is not loss. This is growth. God didn't change your heart so you could revisit old seasons. He changed it so you could outgrow them. You are no longer compatible with the version of life that almost destroyed you, and that is mercy. If you ever feel like you don't belong where you used to feel comfortable, that's because God already moved you forward internally before he moved you externally. Your heart crossed a line. Your life will soon follow. God's final confirmation. This was never about changing feelings. This was never about making you feel better. It was never about removing every struggle. Never about fixing everything instantly. Never about giving you an easier life. When you asked God to change your heart, he answered with transformation, not comfort. He was preparing you for a level of obedience your old heart could never survive, because the places God is taking you require clarity, require restraint, require discernment. That's why he stripped distractions. That's why he silenced noise. That's why he slowed you down, not to delay you, but to protect you. God knew what would destroy you before you ever saw it. So he changed your heart first. He taught you to walk away quietly, to obey without applause, to trust without evidence. And now, you are no longer ruled by impulse. You are no longer driven by fear. You are no longer desperate for validation. You move differently. You pray differently. You listen differently. This is not accidental. This is the evidence that God finished the work you asked him to start. The restlessness you once had has been replaced with reverence. The confusion you once lived in has been replaced with conviction. And even though your life may not look perfect yet, your heart is ready. And when the heart is ready, God releases the next instruction. Stay here, God is still speaking. Before you leave this moment, before you close this video, before you rush back into noise, pause, because God is closer right now then you realize, if this message felt personal, it's because God was confirming something. If this message felt uncomfortable, it's because He was refining something. If this message felt peaceful, it's because He was sealing something. You didn't imagine this shift. You didn't force this change. And you didn't miss His voice. You asked, God answered, and the heart He is forming in you will recognize doors. Before they open, will sense danger. Before it arrives, and will obey, even when it cost you everything. So don't rush the next step. Don't explain what God is doing in you. And don't look back at what He already removed. Stay obedient. Stay humble. Stay still. Because when God changes a heart, He doesn't go backward. He moves forward, carefully, intentionally, eternally. And if you needed confirmation today, let this be it. God said yes, and He meant it.